So in this video, I'm just going to be kind of drafting or ranking my top 10 favorite main characters and protagonists in anime, and including manga, because some of these don't have an anime. So I'm just going to be going off that. And there's no really real criteria. It's mainly just ones I vibe with, some I really liked when it comes to reading their journey. And that's just how it's going to be. Nothing too crazy, nothing of who's better, who's the best. And go ahead in the comment section, leave some of your favorite main characters. And if it's one I haven't mentioned that's like super popular and everybody loves, it's probably because I haven't seen it yet. So if I haven't and mentioned them, just list them down below. I look forward to reading or watching them. But let's get into this thing. Number 10, we gotta go with my boy Ichigo. Ichigo, before I even get into his character, the flyest one probably on this list other than one other character, even if it's the little cover pages that Kubo draws or even his regular battle gear. I think Ichigo has one of the coolest designs and one of the best drip in the entire anime manga just industry. But into his character, I just love the whole simplicity of it and how it kind of grows as the story goes on. Obviously, we know he wants to protect his friends and the whole relationship with Orihime, his cool friendship with Chad, and his growing one with Uryu, which gave off rival vibes. But as the story goes on, they're kind of just good friends that look out for each other, but they got their own dilemmas and problems that they were born with, they have to deal with. From the Soul Society arc to even the Arrancar, the Wake Up Mundo saga, I even really liked his Fullbringer arc and the whole character development and the kind of direction Kubo went with them, and how would Ichigo react to things without power? How are you going to save people? And I think that he did really good at carrying that arc. Even though it's not the most received or most well received, I still enjoyed it. And then in the 1,000 Year Blood War arc, that was probably one of my lowest moments for Ichigo, is because he doesn't really have a ton of showings in there compared to how he normally is. But I think overall, with his dynamic with Aizen as the antagonist and him being the protagonist was fire. I really liked it. And of course, his backstory and everything revolving around him post Fullbring, and how we flesh out his backstory with his mother and his father, and how everything from before just connects the dots between him being a Hollow, him being a Shinigami, him being even a Quincy. I thought all of it was really cool, and I can't wait for that next season to drop in July in a couple weeks. But number 9, I got Ippo Makunochi from Hajime no Ippo, and every time I read this manga, and with Ippo as the main focus, as the main character, first word that come to mind is just greatness. I think the way Morikawa has used Ippo from especially the beginning up until where we're at currently in the manga has been really well done. And I think the best part is crazy that the best part of a character is the thing that we're not really technically watching or reading him for. The best part about Ippo's character right now is the fact that he's in retirement. He's not boxing. He's just learning things from the side. But we know once he stepped back into the ring, it's game over. Because he's everything that he's picked up, the knowledge, the little stuff, the little technical stuff that he can throw in, when he can switch his hips, things like that, playing defense, spotting things that a coach normally would. But now he's going to be able to take that into the ring himself. It's going to be crazy. I think his return is going to be something that a lot of people are just going to be talking about for years to come. But even before then, obviously Ippo's boxing matches are just must see. You gotta read them, especially whether it's the manga or the anime. I think both are phenomenal, because when Ippo hits, it literally just feels like a Mack truck just hits you at full speed. Because the way they animate and the way Morikawa draws it, it's like every time you just can't stop reading. And Ippo's kind of like the old school. He's more of what you would kind of think of a common, I guess I hate saying the Shonen MC, because Shonen MCs come in different varieties and forms, but he is kind of that mold of the guy that used to be bullied, but now he grows up and he becomes a badass. That's kind of what he is. He's still the nervous, kind of just frail kind of guy, technically, when it comes to his personality. A lot of someone you can just walk through. But man, when you really get to just experience Ippo and everything he's been through, especially his relationship with Coach Kamigawa, he's one of the greatest I've ever read. And I think the two fights that really display Ippo's character the best is obviously his second fight with Sendo, the rematch, the Lollapalooza, and then the one with Alfred. Those two fights, I feel like just stand the test of time, because they just show different paths for Ippo as he continues on his journey. For number 8, I got the real trio of Nomiya, Kiyoharu, and Takahashi. I think technically all three of them are the main character, and they kind of do work like that. But I really don't even know how to describe these three in words, because when you really read the story of real through these guys, you really kind of just cherish what you have in real life. It's kind of the best way to describe it, because they, all three of them, the way that their journeys and their story connect with one another, and how kind of the downfall and how some of them rise, some of them get better. And I think everything regarding them is just about growth and understanding yourself, because I feel like the best one is Takahashi when it comes to everything revolving around this story. When you see the guy that he was a bully. He was someone that a lot of people would just say like he's a dickhead, but once you see everything that he goes through, you don't even really know if you feel bad for him, because everything that's happened to him, you could say it was well deserved. Him becoming handicapped, him losing his passion of basketball through that, and him going through this tough rehab, and all of it is just mental fatigue, because he's not even accepting the fact that he can't even walk anymore. And then the doctors have to go through that and have to let him know that, even though you can't walk, your life ain't over. And then obviously he gets the love of wheelchair basketball. So his passion is back, and he's a tough competitive dude. But he still has that hard-headed, that just, you really don't even know if you want to root for the dude type of thing. But his character, man, I think it really done a phenomenal job with him. Nomiya is probably my favorite, just because Nomiya is just one you kind of just want to root for. The guy's just trying to get himself into shape. He wants to become a pro basketball player. He has a lot of deficiencies, but man, you just gotta root for the guy. His love relationship and the things that he goes through with that, the fact that he feels responsible for his girl getting pretty much the same thing that Takahashi got. She won't be able to walk anymore, but he's still riding with her on this journey, even if both of them don't really know if they want to get together or whatever. It's a beautiful story. And then Kiyoharu is kind of like the in-between. He's always been handicapped, and once he got that disease, the thing with his foot, and he becomes a wheelchair kind of phenomenon over time, and him learning how to be a leader. I think everything evolving around reeling these characters, it really tapped into everything when it comes to how he can tell a story through a character and flesh them out and guide them into the beginning, into the end. Sadly, is another Noe project that just is not finished. But what he put with these three characters, I think a lot of people just can't do, especially the emotional aspect. I haven't been that emotional reading three characters and willing to see them like grow and shine as much ever. Number 7, I got my young goat, Yuji Itadori. Obviously, if you see my first channel, I'm a big JJK guy. So I got Yuji on here. I think when it comes to the new gen or the new generation of main characters, for me, I think he's the best. He provides amazing fights, provides a dope personality that you could just forever read and follow, even if he doesn't have the greatest direction. Depending on how you really want to view it, I enjoy how Yuji's kind of used as a central point and not the main focus every time. But when you see that, and then his character is everything evolving around him is a mystery. Every time we see him, you want to learn more about Yuji as a character. Even where we're at right now, we're near the end of the story, and it feels like there's still things about Yuji we don't know in terms of his background, certain little things about him, who really was his granddad, or obviously I'm not gonna spoil it in case you haven't read JJK, but what's up with his mama? How did you find out that happened? What's up with his dad? Why are we so adamant about having him? It's everything. Obviously the thing with Mahito, the interaction with Sukuna, the whole Gojo, Nobara, Megumi, everything that's going on right now. And I really can't wait to see him in July animated, because season 2, you're really going to see how great of a main character Yuji is and how much depth is in his character when it comes to the mental aspects and the emotional side of Yuji. Because this physical side is really the impactful, the bright shining thing you want to notice. But when you get into what goes on in Yuji's head, that's where he really shines. At 6, I had to put a Joestar. JoJo's, that's one of my favorite series. I got a top 5 all time for me. But if I had to pick one, I got to go with Johnny Joestar. Now, obviously spoilers for Steel Ball Run, even though I'm not really going to go into that much detail about him, obviously. Johnny, man, the whole thing with him, first of all, the fact that he's a cripple and he's joining a horse race, he's already a GOAT. But really, Johnny's kind of everything you would imagine about a Joestar put into one. The whole backstory with him and his father, man, that was crazy to see. Now, Johnny's personality, he's more of on the, I ain't gonna be the biggest fan of him if you would actually meet him in real life, because he ain't the nicest at first. But when you first of all, when he gets up with Gyro, that's really where things just set off. And him getting Gyro to go on this journey, going for the Saint's corpse. And we all know about his we'll just call it his determination when it comes to getting this job done. Because when he gets into just, if you had to kill someone, kind of like a superhero, would you do it? With Johnny, if you ask him, would you kill someone? His face is gonna get a little different, and the murder spree is gonna start. The dynamic with him and Funny Valentine, whenever they fight, whenever they talk, I think it's some of the best Araki's ever put together. I think Steel Ball Run is obviously the best in the whole JoJo series, the whole sphere. His Stand Tusk, the evolution of it is amazing, even though kind of the way it works, I was always kind of like, I don't know how it works, but it just goes and it just happens. But once you get to see the nail bullets and everything involved with Johnny, the whole horse race, his just bleak outlook on life and how his whole horse jockeying career went and how it goes and up until the end. Once again, I'm trying not to say too much. And how could you forget his whole feud with Diego? Those two characters, man, I cannot wait. Hopefully they actually adapt part 7. I heard some people say they're not gonna adapt it. I would imagine they do, because why would you stop at 6? But Johnny Joestar is the truth. Number 5, we got my sports GOAT MC, Hanamichi Sakuragi. Hanamichi is probably the funniest one I've read, because the dude doesn't even like basketball when he starts. He literally just gets into it because there's a girl he likes. She likes basketball. Brother likes basketball. He said, fuck it, let me try playing basketball. And we just try to dunk the ball. Head hit the top of the backboard. And that's how the whole journey started. That's how he gets into basketball. And the whole ride of slam dunks funny, but when it gets serious, it's some of the best stuff you'll ever read starts. His little rivalry with Rukawa is very reminiscent of a lot of things from the 90s back then. Rukawa kind of was technically like the OG Hiei, the OG Sasuke, if you want to be technical with it. He kind of had that vibe going where he was kind of like the standoff, stoic, black hair character that's like the prodigy, and that is what he is. And he's basically the Michael Jordan to Sakuragi's Dennis Rodman. The series in general is kind of like how you would see a lot of series, how they are today. They kind of all look at Slam Dunk as like the blueprint and they go from there. Hanamichi still stands out to me the most out of any of them because of his utter confidence no matter what it is. I feel like the best game that shows Sakuragi's character is definitely the rematch with Ryonen, and the put back slam for the game was so hype, and everyone's development is great. Obviously with Sakuragi, I think his relationship with each character, specifically Rukawa, Akagi, and then even at times with Miyagi, because they both got like girl problems or whatever, girls that they trying to get, but they're not gonna get them at the end of the day, and they're both delinquents. I love this story. I love Sakuragi, and his growing passion for basketball really pushes the story too. Even when he cries with Akagi because he knows how much this meant to him as a senior, he makes sure to embrace him and tells him to enjoy the moment even though they lost. And his love for the game translates even without Haruko. Plus, little side note, if you ever read Slam Dunk, listening to Kanye, a lot of those moments hit kind of different. Fourth spot, I gotta go with Naruto Uzumaki. I mean, Naruto's the first technically anime, because you know, all started with Pokemon, but Naruto's the one that really got me embraced into the whole anime culture and everything. Now, we all know the tale of Naruto, but I feel like Naruto, to me, even at this day, I feel like he's still incredibly kind of underrated in terms of how he's written. I feel like a lot of people just hate the talk no jutsu, which the Obito thing, you know, it kind of makes sense. But I know a lot of people just want him to finish off Obito, but you gotta understand, Naruto, coming from the kid up to what he is now, is kind of the adolescent that wants to achieve greatness, but doesn't really understand what that means and how that weight carries. He's aiming to be the leader of a village, the Hokage, and he really just wanted it for admiration. He wanted respect. He wanted people to stop looking at him as if he was beneath them and that he's not a monster. But as he grows older and he understands like what it means to be an Hokage, or just a Kage period, you're becoming a leader of the people. You gotta learn how to talk to people, when to go into battle. Going into war is bigger than what you think it is, and he understands that. And I think Kishimoto goes into it with like obviously kind of like a less graphic and more of how you would want kids or teens to kind of understand. And Naruto goes through this growth, and I think it was all good. Obviously there's a couple blips in between, but I mean, any story that's like past 500 chapters probably will. But to me, Naruto is my Goku. A lot of people got it to anime with Dragon Ball. Naruto is my Dragon Ball, so that's how I'm always gonna look at him. Legend in the whole anime culture. I think for now, today's time, he kind of is taking over Goku's role. Probably has one of the greatest sensei-student relationships and dynamics with Jiraiya. We all know the pain arc is goated, and that's part of it because of Naruto. We all love OG Naruto, and because Naruto, we see him go from this knucklehead ninja to being to him being that guy by the end of the series. Even though he does lose to Sasuke, he was still that guy. I really can't put him any lower. He's probably gonna be my top 5 forever. Now, granted, I do think Boruto has done more harm than good to the franchise, because everything regarding that series, I'm not the biggest fan of. I feel like they kind of tarnishing the name of Naruto, and then the Naruto game that's coming out ain't really helping it. But you know, that's still my guy. That's still my GOAT. Number 3, I got the main samurai. When you think of samurai manga, you don't think of Vagabond, and I got Masashi Miyamoto. When we come to writing, I mean, if you've read Vagabond, you already know that everyone loves this character because of just how in depth you really get as a samurai. And he kind of is like basically like the seinen starter pack if you want to get into it. But we see Masashi go from a guy who's kind of like an animal. He's a guy that just wants to be able to become strong, understanding what that means and what that actually carries. Obviously, as a young teen, he just thinks that you being the strongest samurai, taking down the biggest names, owning whatever land or whatever, having your name etched in immortality. But as he gets older, as he matures, he goes to understand what being strong means. And that is not about fighting. It's really just a deep topic and a deep word that can just stretch out into multiple things. A lot of people have different views on it, and even in the story, it is shown what strength means, but it kind of just leaves it open to the viewer, like, what do you depict it as? And we see him going to the farming arc, which is kind of where you see he's learning what that means, and that you really don't have to fight to be able to be strong. You could use your words, you could show your compassion, your empathy as a man, and that you being this raw animal isn't strength. If anything, it shows your weakness. Being able to control your emotions in situations that you feel uncomfortable in. Putting your sword down and learning how to farm crops and helping the elderly out, even when they get mad at you or when you just in situations where you don't even know if you're ever going to be able to feel like you're a samurai ever again. When he's in jail and he's thinking about things like that, his life, he's thinking about his girl, he's thinking about his past and how he's grown, his best friend, what's happening to him. And you see as he's growing as a man, you see that Musashi is stronger than he's ever been, and he doesn't even need a sword to feel like that. My personal favorite arc is him versus the 70 Yoshioka. That whole thing was an experience to read. Really a one-man army into an entire arc, and you're seeing just, as a swordsman how strong he is, but man, the toll that carries with him into his life is insane. It's a must read. Obviously, I talked about the farming arc. That's really where you get to see him as a man, and everything before is really great to read. But man, once you see him put that down and he begins to learn with the monk, the writing just goes into another level. Number 2, I got Yusuke Urameshi. I love the link with manga characters, especially when they're the MC. And in Yu Yu Hakusho, Yusuke is him. He's that man. Part of me just really relates to kind of his upbringing. Single mother, going through things. He has his own issues, his own problems at school, and he has his own mental problems that he just is trying to overcome. And he kind of uses his brash personality to just brush past it. He has his own weaknesses, but getting into just why people love him. People love him because Yusuke is one of the best at talking shit.
Serious? She's a fighter and she's trying to get in our way. I don't care if she's a girl or a baby or somebody's grandmother. I'll still knock her out.
That is exactly why I first like him, because no matter who he's against, he gonna talk trash, he gonna run his mouth, and he gonna back it up. His relationship with Kuwabara is probably my favorite. I just think those two, they act like these just like utter knuckleheads at times, utter just idiots, but you just love them because of their energy. His rivalry, his whole feud and storyline with Toguro is one of my personal favorites ever done, because it is kind of centered around strength, and really it is kind of like more so a power. Like Yusuke isn't using his full potential as how he really should be. Toguro is kind of like subtly teaching him how to do that. They both kind of have a similar upbringing. They both kind of have their own Genkai. He has Keiko. They both kind of grow in different parts of their life. It's really good. The Dark Tournament as a whole, man, you gotta love that, especially for Yusuke. And then when we get into Sensui and they get into what it's like being a spirit detective and how that messes with your mind, your emotions, because of basically you kind of just putting your humanity aside, man, phenomenal. And obviously you got Yusuke's strength growth with the spirit gun, the spirit cannon, and the spirit shotgun. All of that's great. And that side of Yusuke, where Yusuke actually starts to enjoy battle, he enjoys getting bloody and getting into fist fights with demons. I like that side of Yusuke, even though it does scare like Keiko, which brought out a different side of Yusuke that he kind of has to learn how to like be a little softer when it comes to that, and kind of how to tone that down, especially when he gets rising. When he gets rising, he's a whole different monster. But Yusuke, that's gonna forever be my guy. That's my boy. If you haven't watched Yu Yu Hakusho, you gotta watch it. It's a classic for a reason, and it's written by Tagashi. So if you like Hunter x Hunter, you want to see the early stages of Tagashi a little bit, check it out. The top spot for me is Guts from Berserk. Now, even if you don't know about Guts, at this point, if you an anime guy and you like the culture and the manga and all that good stuff, you know about Guts. Whether it's because, you know, Berserk is just, you know, it's a little bit too much, a lot of gore, a lot of demonic shit in it, you know. But what we really like about Guts is he is the perfect character you want to use to talk about a guy who's like a monster, a demon. He's a dude that he's gonna go out there, he's gonna slice you to bits, he'll kill you and all this. But as the time goes on, you just want to see this man happy because he goes through a lot of stuff. We all know about the eclipse and what that has done to Guts, is why he's going on this vengeful path towards Griffith. But one of my favorite parts is when he's with the blacksmith, and the blacksmith pretty much puts the Guts like this: you're going on this path of revenge, but you're really running from what you should be doing, and that's looking after Casca and that baby. And that's what you really need to be doing with your life, because you going after Griffith, I know you have a ton of rage towards him because he's done a lot of spiteful things no human being should really have to have gone through, but that's really not the most important thing in your life. And that line right there, when they had that dialogue, that's when I really just looked at Guts as like a whole different character and as a whole different entity. Obviously, young Guts to me, I really like probably the most. I don't know, maybe it's just because it brings like an OG and like a nostalgic kind of vibe to it, because we see Guts go from a guy who's stoic, doesn't even want to really develop any relationship with anybody, and then he does get that with the Band of the Hawk. And when you get to see why he's so reluctant against getting close to people because of what Donovan did to him as a kid, which that was vile as hell. And then fast forward into the Guts that we know now, and how he cherishes Casca and even the guys that he got along with him on the ride, like the youngins that he has, like Isidro and all of them. It's a beautiful story. I think Guts from top to bottom is one of the best, if not the best written main character I've ever experienced. And even as an adult, like, his humanity is tested in a different way. They want to see how far can you push Guts' rage, to where even as a reader, they make Guts look like the villain compared to the villains that he's been going up against, especially with the elves and all of that. It's crazy. But at this point, we all know Guts is one of the greatest of all time for a reason. He's my number one spot. It's my top 10 list. Also, let me give some shout outs to the honorable mentions. I gotta put Thorfinn in there. Thorfinn in the next one, because the next one's gonna be like top 20. He's for sure gonna be in there, because Vinland Saga Season 2 is masterful. Same for Kichi Miyazawa from Tough. Check out that series. And I'm gonna just throw in Light, because Light's, you know, he's him. When it comes to a villain protagonist, Light's kind of like the standard at this point. But leave a like, subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Most stuff coming on the way. Take care of yourselves. I'll holla at y'all in the next one. Peace.